Hey guys, it's Ryan Fowler with Inner Masculine Live, and I have a bunch of my friends joining me today. All of these guys are hypnotists, certified hypnotists. I think 3 of them are clients. Tim, I've known for about 18 years. Really good guy, and we're going to have just a big discussion today on which is more important, most important, motivation or discipline, why that is actually a trick question. And so we're going to have a discussion on that. But first, how about everyone introduce themselves, starting with Gary, Jordan, then Brent and Tim, and just tell us a little bit about yourselves, why you do hypnosis or life coaching or any other methodology, why you do it.
Yeah, so my name's Gary. I've been doing hypnosis for about a year plus, and the reason I do it is it absolutely works. I've tried a lot of different things. I've seen the most success with this modality more than anything else. And I've been a direct response marketer for most of my career. And so, in my marketing career, my job is to change perspectives and change beliefs. And hypnosis is actually a really convenient way of using those skills that I already picked up in that career and doing it at a subconscious level. So you can change really fast if you know what you're doing.
Very cool. Jordan.
Yeah, my name's Jordan Kurtz. I got into hypnosis because I wanted to help solve my own poor mental models that I had, as I think that's actually how a lot of us start with it. And then we find the stuff is so powerful that we want to help other people with it as well. I've been doing it for about 9 months now. I've been going really well. Yeah, and I can help guys with things like trauma clearing, all that kind of good stuff. So
yeah, you did it on yourself, and what kind of results are you seeing with others?
Just really life-changing stuff. It's really neat to see. Like Gary said, there's nothing nearly as effective as what we do here.
I think everyone here, do you guys all agree what we do, like 1-2 sessions, not for everyone, but for most people, pretty life-changing? Yep, pretty much. Yeah, okay, sure. Brent, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brent Caldwell. I live in Dallas, Texas, and I got into hypnosis it'll be 3 years next month. Me and Ryan did our first session, and ever since that point, it's changed my life like I couldn't belong. I always, growing up, I'm in my late 20s now. Growing up, I always hit like these roadblocks where it would just stop all my momentum, all my potential. And as soon as we did that first session and did a couple after that, it just opened up my mind, my belief in myself. And, the last couple of years, it's been knocking out my goals like crazy. So that's why I got into hypnosis to help other men, other women too, just to get rid of those low blocks and kind of live the life they want to live.
Yeah, did not take years of therapy, took a few deep sessions, and boom, kicking ass. And Tim, my good friend Tim, introduce yourself. Why'd you get into hypnosis?
So that's an interesting story, but as most of you hadn't had the opportunity, I've known Ryan for almost 18 years now. We were in business together in his asset protection business way back when 2004 or 5 kind of thing. And I knew him then, and I knew that he was struggling, but I had absolutely no clue what he was struggling with or what the path out would have been. Many years go by, we hooked up again. He was in Utah, I was in Arkansas running Walmarts and all that kind of stuff. And we got together for a steak when I went to Amazon in the summer of 2019 down in Dallas. And he was a different man.
Yeah, you're like, who the hell is this guy? What? Is this a doppelganger?
So that steak dinner that's probably, 45 minutes long for most people. I think we're there for 2.5 hours. And I immediately went and signed up for Melanie's course. Not that I needed to help, but I know my wife did. And I went through the course anyway just to learn it. And then I talked more to Ron. I'm going, man, this is so life-changing that I have to do it. So now I'm working on building that side of it and dropping my day job, because quite frankly, my day job's about 75, 80 hours a week. They pay me well, so no complaints at all.
Yeah, you're doing very well.
Yeah, I would not want to fly around the world like I do right now. I like to sit right here, help people, and go in the garage and work with tools. So it's nice to meet you guys. Good to be back with Ryan again.
Yeah, Tim, I didn't know that steak dinner was where you kind of saw the big difference. And
That was it. That
wow.
was it. Yep.
Yeah, Tim knew me when I was a train wreck. All right, so we got a cool clip today. Jocko Willink is going to talk about motivation versus discipline, and we're going to discuss. He's going to say discipline's more important. We're going to discuss the aspects of that. And my title here is "It's a Trick Question." I think these guys know why, but well, I kind of told you earlier, but you guys can disagree with what I told you. It's up to you. But we're going to play the clip first. And then we'll take it from there. All right, here we go. It's just a short clip. Here we go.
Motivation is a feeling that comes and goes, and it doesn't matter whether it's there or not. Discipline is infinitely more important. No matter how you feel, get up and do what you're supposed to do. That's it. And that's discipline. That's not motivation. If you only did what you were supposed to do when you were motivated to do it, that's leaving it to chance. But if you're disciplined, you go do what you're supposed to do. That's the way it works. Motivation is a feeling that comes.
All right, and it just loops over and over. So what do you guys think? Is he all the way right, partially right, all the way wrong? Is he missing anything? What do you guys think?
Do we want to go in order or be all shy and on each other?
Raise your hand. I don't care. Who has something to say?
So I'll go first.
Okay.
Just to break the ice. So Jocko Willink is a stud. And partially what he says is correct. When you have a solid set of core beliefs that allow you to do that. And case in point is, who is the SEAL, the Navy SEAL that retired, transitioned to a female, and now is struggling to transition back to a male? I forget the name of that person. I have to look him up, but that person had a lot of discipline. And, because being a Navy SEAL is not easy. So, yeah, discipline got them through whatever they were trying to get through, but with a lack of solid core beliefs, look how messed up that person is now. Jocko has a good set of solid beliefs. So when you talk about discipline is a set of rules that you adhere to for a successful outcome. When I was running a Walmart store, there were certain things we need to do throughout the day to have a successful store. That's if everything else was already working. So that discipline is a good thing, but he's right. If you're just motivated, which means external inspiration, all of a sudden I have an idea. I saw something, I want to go do it. You're really leaving it to whim. And that whim now is based upon your core beliefs, good or bad. And I'll leave that there.
What happens if you have no motivation? You're disciplined but no motivation. What's that lead to?
Well, it can lead to white knuckling, and it can lead to
hating your job,
hating yourself, hating your job, beating yourself up,
feeling like a slave. Slaves are disciplined. They're forced to be disciplined, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're not motivated.
And a lot of people are going to use that kind of like external validation that they're getting from being so disciplined. And so they'll keep going and they'll keep going and they'll show themselves the evidence that what they're doing is working. But, eventually you get to a threshold which you can't manage anymore. Right. And I think that's what we're referring to a lot.
So my thoughts on discipline is I almost view it like one of those video game health bars. Like you only have so much in a day, and you can set your life up, and your life, meaning your mental models, your environment, up in such a way that makes it easier to accomplish your goals or harder. You can cut down a tree with a butter knife if you have enough discipline, but it's a lot easier if you just use a chainsaw. It requires a lot, the same amount of discipline to just cut, but you want to create the tools that you have in your life to actually, so when you use that discipline, it actually makes you much more efficient and effective. And so, and the other part he said was like, well, there's that tendency to just ignore how I feel, just do. And part of that can be useful, but I think it's also not so useful, because if you just ignore how you're feeling all the time, then you may miss those inner core beliefs, which could actually be helping you if you took the time to actually develop those, so you didn't have to always have that constant resistance of, I don't want to do something yet, I force myself to. Well, wouldn't it be nice if you just wanted to do those things naturally, because that's part of your core identity, that's part of your core beliefs. So I'm a big fan of just sharpening the saw, I think, is from the 7 Habits book. Just making yourself more efficient, and constantly with that constant aim of self-improvement to make yourself more efficient, so you don't have to have just a massive amount of discipline all the time. It's who you are. It's your core.
What's the discipline for if there's nothing else there, right?
It's a great perspective, Jordan. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and one thing Jocko said that I disagree with, he said motivation comes and goes. He kind of like you have no control over it. And I don't think that's true at all. I think you got massive control over your motivation. I don't think we have perfect control over it. But, I teach my clients something called life gamification, which is to have self-talk in a way to give yourself dopamine hits to stay motivated, just the way video games give you dopamine hits, gambling machines, corporate marketing ads give you dopamine hits. Dopamine is our motivation system. It's our brain's built-in system to get us up, get us moving, get us chasing something, so that we don't just stay in bed all day. So, if millions of years of evolution decided that motivation was important enough to create a biochemical system, around that, I figure it's pretty important. Brent, what's your take? Anything to add?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Jocko. I mean, discipline obliterates motivation all day, because I can remember, for me, motivation would come and go. Some days I want to tackle the world. Some days, I'm not really feeling it, and then nothing would happen.
That's true.
When I was, 18, I got into the gym. I found a good workout partner, and training with him, he kind of taught me, hey, we need to, get the session in no matter what we feel like. So I started developing discipline, which translated to all other aspects of my life. We got to go to work, we got to do the chores, we got to go to work, and discipline really kind of sets you up for a very bright future.
Yeah, it's definitely an essential component. Now, here's something I have for you guys. We've all seen these guys who set goals and they're super motivated, and maybe even for a couple months, they go to the gym every day. They're getting stronger. They're losing weight. They're, maybe they're kicking butt on their career. Just whatever. They're making progress. And maybe they do it for 2 weeks. Maybe they do it for a month. Maybe they do it for 3 months, 4 months. But eventually, they're going up and up, and then they just run out of steam, and then they just nosedive and self-sabotage. Does that have anything to do with motivation, discipline? What's going on?
I mean, if we're looking at it from, how much fuel they have, maybe, right? I think everyone has a different level of 100% and effort, right? And it's like, I think the guys with stronger wills, the guys with a stronger conscious framework, the guys who've been trained in certain mental models, like they're obviously going to be able to do this a lot longer.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what we're talking about today.
Gary, you're on the money. This is the inner game dude party or whatever, Ryan.
Yeah, we tossed around inner game army alliance dude party.
And
we're trying to figure it out. We'll have a name next week, guys.
And that maybe have a contest or somebody give us a name. Anyway, that inner game, again, I go back to Jocko Willink. That guy's got a solid inner game. He doesn't feel bad about himself. He doesn't feel not wanted. He actually creates the desire to be around him because he's so charismatic. He is not angry or raging against anything. He's got all that settled, and he feels safe because he's a beast, right? So nobody's going to beat him up. But the reality is, when he says discipline, it is totally something different than the guy sitting in his chair playing video games 18 hours a day, and he's inspired for the next thing in the video game, because there's a reward to get that. So discipline means different things to different people. Like Gary said, or somebody said, everybody's got a different 100%. Sure. But what is that 100%? What's it look like? So we are inspired externally. Those are the things that we see and we go, wow, I'd like to participate in that. And then somewhere internally, we have to create that motivation. If we've got a bad set of core beliefs, then we talk ourselves out of that motivation pretty quickly and pretty easily.
And the discipline too.
Yeah. So the discipline will come when you have that motivation to want to succeed in that thing. I mean, I think it was Gary's story that I was listening to, I think yesterday or day before, where as he started clearing things, he put those away for such a long time. He had great discipline to plow past them, but it was still trudging through heavy snow. When he cleared those things out, same with Brent, I watched his interview, all of a sudden, the world just has no more speed bumps. It's go do what you want. Motivate yourself, set up your own discipline, and go get what you want to get. I was super impressed. And I think that's important. And that's a perfect proof of having that solid inner game.
Yeah, so this is a really good point, Tim. And I want to ask you guys, all of us here have had guys come to us who can't get ahead. They're stuck. You know, they're not succeeding with dating or career. They're self-sabotaging, or they're not even trying. You know, it's like, I can't even try. Some can try and then they fail and then they get wrecked. Some try and have some success, but eventually peter out, and some can't even try the first time. They do a session with us, all of a sudden they start kicking ass. I've seen people, I've had over a dozen guys tell me my income has doubled, like literally doubled. I've had guys tell me, you know, and that's, by the way, that's not a guarantee, you know, for anyone coming to me, but it happens a lot. Some guys say my income's up 50%, 30%, triple, double, whatever.
It's never down though, Ryan. It's never down.
What's that?
It's never down. It's always up.
So what's the change we're making where all of a sudden these guys, are we giving these guys discipline? Are we giving them motivation? Is it core belief? Is it all three? What are we doing that actually turn all of a sudden these guys start kicking ass? How does that play into this?
Yeah. Well, my thoughts is like, if you believe that you are a successful person, that you're entitled to success, that you deserve success, then if that's your core belief, then the actions you take are going to reflect that core belief. So if a successful person is someone who goes to the gym, who takes care of themselves, who eats healthy, who has, you know, healthy habits, you're going to do those things. And it's not that you feel like you have to force yourself through discipline. You do that because that's fundamentally who you are. And I think that, and so it comes down, it goes, you have to have discipline, I guess, to pull the trigger, but I like that you have to set it up so that you can be successful. And that setup comes from believing internally that you are enough, that you can be liked by others, that you believe that you are worthy of others' love, affection, attention, commitment, whatever it may be, that you don't feel this, that toxic shame.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
No, he hit the nail on the head. I mean, discipline will only take you so far. But healthy inner game, positive belief in oneself, that is what will set you apart and, get you to that next level. Because, I mean, I consider myself a fairly disciplined guy, but I was going nowhere. Nothing was ever happening because I kept hitting that roadblock internally. My mind would just stop me from all kind of movement. And then, me and you, Ryan, we did the work. We cleared those traumas. And now all that mental energy can go into focusing on the life I want to have. So, yeah, believing in yourself, sorting out your inner game, that's the key to whatever you want in life.
Yeah, and you were going to the gym every day before any of our sessions. So you had that discipline.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I actually have an article I'm going to bring up. And because I believe, and you guys feel free to disagree, but I believe this article kind of really spells out all three. So what we're talking about is motivation, discipline, belief. I'm gonna tie it into this. You guys tell me what you think. I'll kind of sort of give you my take, and then you guys tell me what you think. So James Clear wrote the book Atomic Habits. He has a really great article called Identity-Based Habits. Atomic Habits, Google it. It's sold over 10 million copies. It's like in 70 language or some ridiculous amount of languages. And how to actually stick to your goals this year. Now, he has this graph down here. Outcomes on the outside, processes, identity. And kind of how I look at this is outcomes is saying, I want to reach this goal. People set New Year's resolutions and all they have is motivation. I want to accomplish this. I want the outcome. I want it. I want it. People set New Year's resolutions and most of them don't achieve it. All they're doing is focusing on the outcome and the benefit, but not the other stuff. Processes, and the big point of Atomic Habits is you get the habits, which involves discipline. The day in, day out, do it. You're in the habit. You're doing effort every day. And he says focusing on the processes gives you more success with realizing your outcome than focusing on the outcome. And when you focus on the outcome, I think you're really just trying to motivate yourself. You're looking at the goal. You're looking at the benefit. But what he says is the most important thing is identity. You actually need all three, but the foundation is identity. So here's what he says, and then we'll open up for discussion. The key to building lasting habits is focusing on creating a new identity first. Your current behaviors are simply a reflection of your current identity. What you do now is a mirror image of the type of person you believe you are consciously or subconsciously. And from neuroscience, we know 95% of our behavior is directed by our subconscious. To change your behavior for good, you need to start believing new things about yourself. You need to build identity-based habits. He talks about setting goals here. You know, you want to lose 20 pounds, squat 300 pounds. All of these are, I want this, I want this. Motivation, centered around outcomes, motivation, not identity. And a lot of people try and lose weight. They can't lose weight. They're just focused on the weight loss. He talks about the 3 levels. And the first layer, changing your outcomes. Second layer, changing your process. Third, deepest layer, changing your identity. And he actually says here, you need all 3, but you first decide the outcome, you know, who you want to be, and then you prove it to yourself. And now what we do, what he says here, for example, you want to become a person who exercises and healthy moves every day. And small win, you buy a pedometer and you just every 100 steps, 50, whatever, you're celebrating it. This is actually identity based. I show my clients to do this. Show to yourself that you are making progress, that you do have value. You celebrate all your small wins and use it as evidence that you are the type of person you're trying to be. So anyways, we have these 3 things here. I think these correlate really pretty cleanly, not perfectly, but pretty cleanly. Identity is to your self-belief. Processes is discipline. Outcome is you're focusing on the motivation to get that benefit, to get that outcome that you want. And honestly, I think you do need all 3. But when Jocko talks about, hey, your motivation is not as important as your discipline, it's true. Focusing on the day-to-day discipline and processes gets you farther than just focusing on the benefit, the good feelings from the benefit. But he's not considering the core identity. And that's kind of a shame because, man, if you don't have this, then the outer 2, you're just screwed. I don't think you can succeed if you don't have the self-belief, or it will be extremely difficult, bare minimum. What do you guys think? Your take?
I want to go in a different direction, so I'm going to let someone else
go for it. Feel free to disagree. That's my take.
I really like the diagram. I think that's almost exactly what we were talking about earlier, how it all starts at that center identity and branches out for the processes and then the results of the outcome. I think that's really smart. You know, when I work with clients, I think, you know, at the very end of the session, when we've cleared all the trauma and we're trying to help build them almost new, like, positive habits and mental models, you know, I have them visualize a version of themselves that they would like to become. And I have them see that person, 3-4 feet out in front of them, and I have them describe that to me. And so they describe all those positive attributes they want: strength, I don't know, happiness, charisma, whatever those may be. And then I have them literally, when they're under hypnosis, I have them kind of merge with that version of themselves. And so they can start to build that new identity, in their subconscious mind. And I think that I like seeing that those 3 circles with the identity being the center, because that's pretty much exactly how I end all of my sessions, is with building that new identity. So.
Yeah, cool. Gary, you had some stuff to say?
Yeah, I was going to go in a bit of a different direction.
Go for it.
I think one of the things to keep in mind with all this is discipline and motivation can come from a dark place, right? So
True.
It's like, I know for me personally, I didn't have a lot of feelings of I feel good enough. I couldn't really ever outperform my own belief systems. And so what I would do, and I think a lot of successful people do this, is they would implement motivation, implement discipline at some level to kind of prove that how they feel about themselves is actually not true, right?
Yeah.
And so it's
That's
like
Kurt Cobain, right?
Yeah, so like you're
Marilyn
pushing
Monroe.
yourself, you're pushing yourself for 90 days straight, right? You're on target, but you still don't feel good. And the reason is because you're actually not addressing the real problem. And so a lot of this stuff can actually come from a really dark place, and it's not the healthiest thing, but sometimes you have to go through it to even understand that there's something else going on. So I think that's just something important to keep in mind. Like not all motivation and all discipline is inherently good for you, right?
Yeah.
There is a limit to it. And if your belief systems aren't congruent with your goals and how you feel about yourself, and your identity, like everyone's saying, like you're going to have this very, how you say, up and down, like hit this peak flat out, hit another peak, and then flat line. Like you're going to have that sort of cycle happen. And I know, because I've been through it.
Yeah. I have
point,
a friend.
Gary.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Let me tell a story about Ryan. So Ryan now is a tremendously motivated individual. He sees the path
with no discipline.
He has I don't know about that now. I'm not around you all day, but when we were in business together a long time ago, the thing I appreciated about Ryan the most was his intellectual capacity. It blew me away, and he'll tell you how different he and I are, like night and day. But his ability to bring in information and spit something else out that nobody ever thought of, just like Dive to the Five, exactly like Dive to the Five, blows me away. Because now, like he talks about, he has unlocked, the what do you call it, Ryan? The key to humanity or something. He uses some really big, grandiose word, right?
It's like a key to the human soul.
Yeah, key to the human soul. Right?
I called it key to the universe before. It's probably more like key to the human soul.
So in that, and I didn't start retail till I was 49 years old, right? Wow. So I went to Walmart. We moved to Bentonville. Ryan and I were winding down his business, and I was out messing around and wanted to go work for Walmart. Went to work for Walmart. A few years later, they gave me a store to run, and I'm telling you, my store was broke when I took it over. They have this thing. It's not a retail game, but to show you how bad it was broke, there's 130,000 items in a Walmart supercenter, individual items. Dang. This store had an 86% on-shelf availability score, right? Which meant I was literally out of 18 or 19,000 items in the store. That is just incredible. So to this point about Clear's identity-based thing, I had to figure out how to get 600 people motivated in the right direction. So I learned how to empower people. And this is exactly what we're talking about. If you want to empower something, you need to give somebody a tool. Jordan mentioned the toolbox, right, that you're building. And for our tool, it was a handheld device, right? And on that handheld device, it had some process for helping us fill the shelf, essentially. That was the whole goal. And thirdly, I would instill one by one with each individual the tool, the process, and then the strategic vision of what they're to do, right? That outcome that we're going to get. My store went from an 86 OSCA to a 96 OSCA, which is incredibly good, in about 6 months. It takes a long time. It took me a year to get my store squared away because, you got 25,000 customers a day, 600 employees, vendors coming in, all that kind of stuff, a lot of noise. It's the exact same thing here. That identity is that tool, as Jordan mentioned, that good set of core beliefs that every one of you now have clear, and that bag of rocks that was in your backpack, you just kept taking the rocks out, and the load kept getting lighter, and all of a sudden you're charging forward uninhibited. So we're empowering people by giving them a solid identity and then reprogramming that bad subconscious core belief, as Jordan mentioned, with good programs. And now their strategic vision is, I want to lose weight. I want to make more money. I want to get married. I want to find a good girl. Now they're clear and uninhibited to do all that. I'll leave that there.
Yeah, I'll say the 3 core beliefs I see are: I deserve it. If I do the work, I'm worthy of it, deserve it. I can get it if I do the work, and it's worth the work. If you don't have any of those 3, discipline, motivation, irrelevant, you're just not going to do it. And clients come to us and they don't have these core beliefs. Most of them think the things they want are worth it, but they feel they don't deserve it. They're not worthy of it because they're not good enough, or they're incapable. Some feel they're not allowed to get it. Like they don't have permission. Like, oh, it's bad. I had one guy whose parents were communists from the Soviet Union. They moved from the Soviet Union went to America when he was a kid. And he said, I want to be wealthy, but my parents, always drilled into me that the wealthy people are evil, that they're oppressing the lower classes. So I literally feel like I'm going to be evil if I go after financial success. Yeah.
So a lot of people have really screwed up relationships with money, on both ends of the spectrum.
100%. Yeah.
How many of you are auto mechanics?
Brent.
So Brent is the guy that I walk up to with my car and go, it's doing this, and I don't know why. And Brent already knows, because he's got that good set of core beliefs called auto mechanic school, right? And certification.
We can find out, yeah.
I already know what you're talking about. I already know where to go look.
Yep.
People that come to us, they're struggling, they're troubled, their thing doesn't work. And they come to us, and like Ryan's Dive to the 5, that first part of that session, you're just digging and digging. I think Gary talked about how Ryan.
Explain what that is for our audience, though, Tim. What is Dive to the 5?
So Dive to the 5 is the process that we all use that allows us to get to the 5 types of subconscious trauma, because all of us suffer from something, and it can be pretty much put in one of those 5 categories. And those 5 categories are the things that we need to understand about that person to understand where they're struggling, and then be able to help them clear that particular trauma.
Yeah,
and those 5 to the 5 are: I'm not good enough, I don't belong, I don't deserve it,
or you cannot get it.
Can't get it. Yeah, can't get what you want. The fear, rage, or resentment, which I find to be the most compelling for just so many people to get rid of that first, and then they don't feel safe. Those are the 5 types of subconscious trauma that all of us use in a process to dig down. And I remember Brent and Gary's interviews. I got to go back and look at Jordan's again, but I was listening to Gary's on the airplane, and then I was in Oklahoma City baggage claim getting my bags, talking about digging with that other guy that he went to for years. And I just thought, man, what a struggle. What a process. Congratulations, Gary, Brent, for making it through. Jordan as well. I mean, I'm just in awe of the good that it can do to get rid of that baggage. Properly.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Properly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would say once you get that belief and get this stuff cleared out, then get that discipline, But I think it comes a lot easier. Discipline and motivation comes easier once your self-belief is right. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think most people don't even know they're fighting themselves,
Right.
right?
Yep.
I think one of the profound things I figured out through hypnosis was like, I had a mentor who would always say, you know, we're always telling ourselves a story. And I kind of believed that, and I wanted to believe that, but I didn't understand what he was saying. And I was like, you know, I'm not telling myself a story, but in reality, we actually are. It may be a secret narrative that's going on behind the conscious that you're not even aware of. And unless you do subconscious work of some kind, you're not going to be able to discover that secret narrative, that story that's actually playing behind, that is basically forcing you to push on the brake while you're holding the gas pedal, right? It's this incongruence that is really making life probably confusing for you, because maybe you're in this spot where a lot of people believe in your work ethic, and they believe in your competence, and they believe in your leadership and your ability and your future and all these things. And maybe you do as well, but for whatever reason, you keep self-sabotaging, you keep falling into depressive states, you can't make sense of any of it. That's a really big sign that there might be something else going on behind the scenes, right? And so a lot of people that I talk to, they're super, super frustrated because they've done everything in terms of motivation, discipline, framework, scheduling, goals, coaching. I mean, you name it, but for whatever reason, they still can't get over that hump. And sometimes it takes doing all of that to figure this out about yourself, right? But they've already spent a lot of money trying to get better. And so, you know, it's a big relief when they find out actually it wasn't them, right, at all. Like there was something else going on behind the scenes. And so like once that clears up, all of a sudden all the frameworks they bought, all the conscious things that we're doing in terms of discipline and motivation and scheduling, that becomes like seamless, right? Like you're sliding down this slippery slide, right? And so that's what's so exciting about, I think, doing this work for all of us. It's like once you just remove this problem, things just happen, right? And it's almost like it almost feels too easy sometimes, because your whole life you've been struggling with this, you've been finding yourself at some level, whether you know it or not. And when that weight lifts off, it's just pleasant, you know. Everything's a little bit easier, everything makes more sense, you're not screwing yourself up in those most important moments. And so it's a really exciting thing once you're completely integrated with who you actually are as your authentic self.
To your point, Gary, how many of us get to the end of the session, bring him out of hypnosis, and we go, how do you feel?
Mm-hmm.
And almost every single time, it's like, after a process of minutes, something's different. I don't know what it is, but something's different. And it plays out in the days to come. But that bag of rocks has been lightened. You know, to look at Brent there and go, I walk in, I go, I keep driving this way, but my car wants to go this way.
Right.
And then you leave Brent's shop and you got 4 new wheels. They're all aligned, all balanced. You're driving down the road like a brand new car. It's the exact same thing we're doing.
And yeah, if I want to expand on that too, I think that it's a different feeling when you come out of the session. And kind of what I mean by that, like you're more congruent with who you are. And like there's a certain amount of like resistance, I think, when you're constantly fighting yourself. It's not a comfortable existence to constantly fight yourself and constantly have these self-sabotaging belief systems inside you. You're constantly pulling them along with you. And it also, like, you don't, and most clients I find when I work with them, or a lot of them, find that I have to dig a little bit and have this kind of a pre-talk with them to try and figure out what's going on, because a lot of people tend to suppress or resist looking at the things that they know are, that their subconscious is holding them back, but like they don't want to look at them. They don't want to acknowledge that that's an issue because they've suppressed so much. They've tried to ignore so much. And when you stop ignoring it, when you stop trying to suppress all those feelings and actually deal with them in hypnosis, you feel like you're free at the end of the session. So when you say, you know, clients come out of the session, they feel differently. They feel like they're free because they're no longer fighting themselves. They're no longer pulling those around, and they give themselves permission to heal. They give themselves permission to actually like care for themselves. And that's something that a lot of people just they haven't given themselves that permission ever. And so when they come out of that session, they're like, their mind is completely blown.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
All right. So, you know, one thing that strikes me when I watch that Jocko Willink link, and now I'm not saying this is the case with Jocko. Maybe, you know, he was just comparing motivation and discipline. You know, I've never heard him talk about self-belief, but there's every possibility he fully understands you have to believe. But I have seen certain life coaches who talk about motivation and discipline, and they can't understand why some of their clients aren't motivated and disciplined because they don't understand this third, deeper level. I've literally held, you know, there's this one red pill guy who has a show. He's very popular. I won't say his name, but he's like, do the work, guys, do the work. Why can't you do the work? And he gets frustrated with his guys because they're not doing the work. And it's just very clear he just has no freaking clue why they can't. And, you know, I remember Rollo Tomasi talking about red pill rage. He's like, some guys just can't get over it. They just can't get past it. And, you know, then they, you know, when I do sessions with people, I do show them life gamification, evidence-based identity statements, you know, and I talk about, hey, you need a mentor, you need a tribe, you need accountability, all of that. I have some videos of me. I've done some videos that explain a lot of this that are going to be coming out in one format or another pretty shortly. And it talks about all of this. You do need discipline. You do need, I tell people, hey, here's things you need to start doing, and print this piece of paper that says what you need to start doing, print it out 5 times, put it where you constantly see it so that you will develop the habit. It will become familiar to you and put you into this, you know, in the habit of doing it in a disciplined manner. So I think it's all important, but I see a lot of life coaches don't understand this deeper layer. They talk about motivation and discipline, and they don't understand core trauma. Jordan, we were picking apart I think you and I picked apart the Alex Hormozi trip. Is that right?
Yep.
And these successful people who don't understand this deeper stuff, I believe what's going on is their upbringing, they just happen to have enough good subconscious programs from their childhood to allow them to be successful. So they have a system that works for them. And because they had a good enough upbringing, at least in certain areas, to have good subconscious programs, they already have their self-belief in, and it's subconscious, and they're not even aware that they have it, and they just think everyone's like them.
Yep.
And so like Alex Hormozi was talking about trauma, acting like, well, it's just something you make up. One society says it's trauma, another is not. It's just a story, and you can just instantly say something and change. And it's like, no, Alex, you're totally wrong. That's not how the brain works. You know, I do see a lot of these coaches that don't understand this deeper layer. They only focus on motivation, discipline, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, and they're not nearly as successful. They're like a 5%, 10% as successful. You really got to develop on this deeper stuff. Have you guys noticed that? Any other comments along this or any other lines?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember back in 2020, I tried working with this guy, and I came to him. I was very, very full of stress and frustration because I can't accomplish my goals, you know, whether it be financial or dating wise, whatever it comes to. And he just kept telling me, yo, just do it. Like, what's your problem? Like, stop being a pussy. Just go. Just
they have no idea. And that's what they do. They'll say, you're a pussy, you're a loser because you're not doing it. But the truth is, they don't understand how to help you. That's their failing as a coach.
Yeah, look at Mike's comment there. Sorry to interrupt you, Brett. That's super, super important. here's how to get to Paris. Here's Paris. Now figure out how to get there.
Yeah, go to Paris.
How?
What
is it?
So, here's the big difference. We give you guys the how.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
That's what we do.
So,
We're
Ryan,
doing something on a layer no one else is doing.
I was
Am
going
I
to
right
ask,
or wrong? Go ahead.
in the terms of like discipline and motivation, one of the things, Alex, I want to ask a question. Like, in terms of discipline and motivation, Alex Hormozy he said in interviews, because I listened to a lot of his stuff, he says that a lot of his motivation was coming from he wanted to prove his father wrong. He had he had all this anger and resentment towards his father for holding him back, for not believing in his goals, that type of stuff. So what do you guys think about that kind of motivation, or that's fueled by anger versus fueled by that inner belief? What do you guys think about that?
Good point. Gary talked about that. I think Gary was fueled, if I listened to his interview, fueled by anger.
Yeah.
Toxic shame can be fuel. I'm not good enough. When I become successful, then I'll be good enough. And now you're super motivated to become successful. I have a friend. You guys know this guy. A few years back, 2-3 years ago, it was halfway through May. He told me he had made $700,000 in 4.5 months. I'm like, holy crap, that's amazing. Like, I've never made $700,000 a year. I'm successful, but not that successful. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. You're killing it. I said, how do you feel? That's so awesome. He's like, I feel not good enough. And I'm like, what? Why do you feel not good enough? And he says, because my other friends already made 1.2 million this year. And it's like, we have this dirty fuel. I'm gonna be super successful and show everyone how awesome I am, and then I'll feel awesome. It doesn't work. It can work temporarily at best. You might feel awesome for a moment, but you go back to what it does. Outward success does not change your core subconscious belief system.
Correct.
Yeah, and that I think that's a lot of people.
What we do does. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, if you believe, right, that you are just you, there's only the conscious you, right? And there's nothing else going on behind the scenes.
A lot of people make that mistake.
Right.
People make that mistake.
It's so easy to just tell yourself, well, when I make this money, when I get this car, when I get this house, when I get this girl, like that's when I'm going to be happy, because you don't realize there's another side of you that you don't have access to yet. Right. And
I hate to call out Ryan, but I remember when we were in business together, he'd get this new BMW. Man,
I was thinking about that.
girls at church will love me. The girls will come right up to me, and I'm like, and I kept thinking, not really. And if they do, that's probably not the one you want. But I didn't tell him because I didn't know what was going on then. But I remember Ryan manifested that exact same thing. It's evident, Gary. It's absolutely evident. And John, you're right. Dirty fuel is still fuel.
Yeah, I had that BMW twin turbo.
Dude, that was so pretty. That blue one.
Yeah. You never got a ride in my 911 Turbo when I had it, though, did you?
Yeah, I did. I drove it. Remember?
Oh yeah, that's right.
We tore all Dallas there for a couple of days.
I don't even have a car now. I'm in Mexico City. I don't want to drive here.
We went a little fast in that car.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, I think. So just continuing off, like I think a lot of people, because they don't have this vocabulary of what else is going on, their way of doing things is like outside in, rather than inside out, right? And so it's like you use the external validation, that level of evidence, to prove that you don't feel as bad as you feel, right? And so that's a lot of people's ways of dealing with the BS that's going on behind the scenes. It's like, well, look, I do have this house, so I can't be a piece of crap. Right. I do have all this money, so I can't be a piece of crap. Right. And so it's just feel like crap. You're just trying to literally prove to yourself that you're not actually how you feel. And, that's a lot of successful people's reality, quite frankly.
And then you go to these poor African villages and they're destitute, but they're happy.
That's right.
Because they love each other. I'm not saying every community, but I've lived in the Philippines for 2 years. Many parts I was in, dirt floors, bamboo huts. People were happy. They felt good enough. They weren't in the rat race. They had a community that loved them. They belonged to the community valued them. They valued the community. They were happy. You know, my job that I just phased out, all my 95% of my clients were million plus net worth. I had many 10 millionaires. I had a few 100 millionaire clients, many 20, 30, 50, 5 million. And some of them were happy. Some were miserable. It's just all over the place, you know? So, yeah.
So like at what point, so this dirty fuel we've been talking about, because it does work to a certain extent.
Right.
But I guess my question would be like, at what point does that dirty fuel start like limiting you? Because you can get pretty far. I mean, Alex got pretty far. He's $100 million offers is his story of getting to 100 million, like, right? So he got really far in that. So at what point, and I guess
we don't know the full narrative with Alex. Keep that in mind.
Right.
Yeah.
The Alex and Layla, I know they've done at least some internal work. The way they talk, but to what degree, I'm not sure.
Now remember, Jordan, a lot of that is performance, right? A lot of that is that outward thing that they get their validation. They create the environment that gives them that validation, almost like a narcissistic supply.
Yeah.
If you want to know when it runs out, there was just that super famous South Carolina trial of that big attorney family, and he killed his wife, his kid, and
oh yeah,
just a total mess. That guy is a train wreck, and that's when it runs out. When it gets out of control, and you can no longer get it all in. You can't get enough. Kurt Cobain, Marilyn Monroe, Robin Williams. I mean. And thousands and millions of others that we don't even know their names that have just run out of that fuel. Yeah. It goes for a while though, but it does. It fuels you for a while.
It can work a long time. It can work a long time, but sooner or later they realize this doesn't work and I have no plan B. My plan A was to become super successful and then everyone would love me. I'd love myself. I'd be good enough. Sooner or later, I got everything now. I still feel terrible. Holy crap. What do I do now? I have no plan B. This is my only plan. And that's where it can really go south and things fall apart. But it's on a spectrum. Some people have this dirty fuel a little bit. Some have it a lot. It's all over the place. There's no one size fits all. There's just, it's the general principle. Yeah, 100%.
Right. And that can be kind of insidious too, because if you're the type of person, like if some of the clients we deal with, they're struggling just to move at all, but if on the outside you look like you got everything put together, I've got all this, all the successful stuff that I would like to have, it can be more challenging to identify that person really has a really poor, set of core beliefs. So, yeah. I mean, it's perhaps easier to identify, I can't get out of it. I can't stop, I don't know, playing video games all day or smoking weed, that kind of stuff. But it can be a little more challenging I think sometimes the successful people might lie to themselves and be like, no, I'm really fine because I've got all this stuff. But like Tim said, it's going to run out at some point. And the worry there is that you crash a lot harder than the guys who are simply struggling to start at all.
Yeah.
So
on the money. By the way, that was my lovely bride, Carrie.
Tell Carrie I said hi.
40 years.
Hi, Carrie.
Hello, hey guys.
She is actually a client of Ryan, and here's case in point. She's done a lot of great things in her life. We've been together 40 years, so on and so forth. 3 kids, 5 grandkids, the whole bit. But Ryan did a session with her, and now she has started a business this year. I think the session was September, October, something. She did more work, self-hypnosis after that. She started a business. She's got me working in the garage on Saturdays making pens. But she's generated $2,000 in revenue in 1 month.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I never would have had the confidence to do that. I would have I'm afraid to. What if people don't like it? I don't know who to reach out to. And I just have gone crazy. And we now have 173 members to our Facebook group in less than 2 weeks.
Beautiful.
All right, go Carrie. I actually did a show with Carrie and Tim where Carrie shared her story. And at the end, I looked up and I was like, I forgot to hit the go live button and it never broadcast. So hopefully next week or when you have time, we can redo it. But Carrie, you had a lot of anxiety. 1 session, you fixed it. Is that more or less right?
Pretty much, yes. There's probably some tweaking and tweak the nuts into place, but it's total different. I don't let things get to me. And if they do, I can sort of control it. I can just sit down there and like, okay, it's not that bad. Okay, it's going to be fine. No problem. Yesterday, I kind of mailed the wrong package to the wrong person, but it was 2 of my customers. So I just I would have in the past freaked out.
Well, you did freak out a little bit.
A little bit, but I'm not as bad. I reached out to each of them, told them straight up, and they were like, okay, if it comes here, I'll send it on to her. If I told her if it comes back to me, I'll send it to you. I'll send you a little extra gift. And if she goes, thank you for letting me know. It was cool. Otherwise, I would have been running around the house like a crazy person. But I did stress for a minute, but I can control it better than I could for about 50 years of my life.
So Carrie,
stay here. Ryan,
I have a question for Carrie. Let's use you as a case study because you need motivation and discipline to start a new business, which is what you're doing, right?
I'm gonna sit here longer. I'm gonna get the chair.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Yes, Ryan.
Yeah, we're talking about motivation and discipline, but also self-belief, core identity belief as necessary underneath it all. You need motivation and discipline to start a new business, which is what you're doing right now, right?
Yes.
So the 3 concepts are motivation, discipline, but you need core belief as well in your ability, your value, clean out your internal world, or you won't get anywhere with that. To what extent do you need motivation, discipline, and how did clearing out your core help you so you can start this business?
Because I feel because it was mostly from parents and this childhood, toxic shame and all that. And I just think they still were in the back of my mind saying, you can't do this. You can't do this. Who's going to want that? That's not a good enough product. There's no demand for it. You're going to fail. That was always everything I did. I never thought it was good enough. That's probably why I worked long hours all the time, because I thought I got to finish it. I got to finish it. I got to be the best. And because that's what it was drilled.
There's that dirty fuel, Jordan.
There's that dirty fuel.
And what's funny is that if it wasn't her mother's idea, it wasn't worthy of the world.
No.
Yeah.
You had to dress up to go shopping. You had to dress up to go anywhere. Don't wear this. What if people see us? That wouldn't be good.
Marry this guy. And then when I came along, a young submarine sailor came down to the golf club. They're like, oh, crap. What'd she get herself into?
Yeah. But, now where I'm 40, everyone said, it's never going to last. You don't know each other long enough in 40 years. And as Tim said, 3 kids, 3 sons, 2 daughter-in-laws, and 5 grandkids. But
wow.
I just never would have had that confidence without my session with Ryan. And Ryan was relentless, I would say. He would not.
I'm hardcore. Yeah. It's like, now that you're here, I don't care how much short-term pain I cause you. I'm getting you massive story.
A story. I love to listen to you guys' stories because it was just, I was laying there and I was sort of aware. I'm like, gosh, no, I'm not going there. And Ryan's like, yes, we are. And I know I was speaking because he wouldn't stop. And then, okay, we're going to go back here again. And I'm like, oh, no. But I felt like Tim said earlier, how do you feel? Because he called me and how do you feel? I'm like, I feel great. Well, what do you feel? I'm like, I don't know. I can't explain it. It's just different.
Yeah.
It's been different with everything. I didn't let things at work, which I was in a very stressful job, get to me. And I made the decision to step down from that job and take a kind of an easier job. And it ended up working out in the long run. I got the pay that I was making.
Got the same money for less job.
Walmart increased their money. So
you're working less and getting paid more now?
Yes.
No responsibility.
Nice.
Hardly.
And I made that decision, and I told him I'm stepping down. I've been there 6 months. I got secure. I'll lose 10%, but then I got 20% raises. They did that, so I got my money back. So I made that decision. I felt good about the decision. Didn't worry about it.
I was in Germany when they did their session, and they did it here in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And it's 8 hours ahead over there. And I got on FaceTime with Carrie about 2 hours after the session to let her calm down. And I could already see the difference, immediately. Just
crazy.
Yeah, no, but on amazing. Ryan is my hero in many ways.
Shucks, thanks, man. You're making me blush. Well, what I wanted to point out is I know Carrie, and Carrie's always, what's that?
Most people don't think it's possible. I've seen people at work that I can identify have issues, and they talk about it like, oh, I got this, I got to go to my mother's house. We have to go there because if we don't, we're in trouble. And I'm just like, no, you're not. And I talk to them, and they're on like, I need to take my medicine for this and that. And I'm like, no, you don't. And so I pass the word around, and they don't realize what this does.
Yeah.
And it's people.
It's a bag of rocks.
You got to tell the stories. And Ryan's great about sharing everybody's story with everyone. And you say, hey, I want to feel like that. And then you can see it. And we just got to spread the word.
Thank you, Carrie. And I've always considered Carrie a disciplined person. You've always been a hard worker. So I just wanted to kind of show that you get your belief system right, as well as having motivation and discipline. You just supercharge everything. It's really a critical element you need in addition to motivation and discipline. Any other thoughts on that or anything else by anyone here?
No, not really. I think it's, like Carrie's saying, it's like, it's very obvious once you've done some work, like who's suffering, right?
Yeah.
You can just see it. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of us are doing this. It's like, you can't ignore how many people are going through this stuff. It's just, again, it's like clear as day when you see it. And
so many people struggling.
It's like, this is kind of why I think we're all teaming up too, is because there's so many people that there's just no way we can help all of them, right? And that's both good and bad news, I guess.
We'll get to a couple when we have lots of customers.
And
we're getting there.
Notice what Carrie said too. When she was in the session, she's like, I don't want to go there again. I don't want to go there again. How many people live their lives like that? They're like, I don't want to look at this bad stuff. Like, that is so common, but it's so freeing when you look at it and just let it go. But you have to take that first that first painful step of actually looking at it. That's if you can do that, if you can just let yourself look at those issues, and then we can do, we can work on the rest. But you have to give yourself permission to do that. Yeah. And that's really challenging.
Jordan, I fortunately haven't had to struggle like that through my life. In fact, I was talking to my mom, and my dad's passed now, but I was talking to my mom and talking about what we're doing with this stuff and how I'm doing the hypnosis. And she goes, well, how'd we do? I said, I don't know how you guys did it, because both of my parents were pretty uneducated, super motivated, super disciplined. Dad was a heating and air conditioning guy. Mom was a stay-at-home mom for 56 years till dad died, all that kind of stuff. And I said, I don't know how you guys did it, but you did a great job, because you got 6 kids that are all pretty well balanced. And I mean, everybody has something somewhere. I get mine from school or from work or wherever else, right? But somehow she did okay. So saying that, am honored to be amongst this group of people, because I don't know what it takes to be that courageous. I really don't. But I'm in awe as I hear what it took to get through that.
Cool. All right. And does anyone else have any final comments for our audience before we wrap it up?
Hi, Matt W.
Yeah. I'll say one last thing. Like, what's also with those that I think some guys, when they come to us, they are ready to let that stuff go. It hurts. It hurts to look at initially, but it usually doesn't. Once you're there, it doesn't usually take a lot of convincing for them to let those feelings go. They're ready. You give them the cue, the tornado that we've all used. You give them the cue, and they are just like, all right, these feelings are gone. I am not going to hold on to these anymore. Yep. It's like, I see what it is, and let's get rid of it. Like, they're encouraged. Once you get over that hump, it's like, it's all, is it uphill or downhill? Well, depending on how you, I don't know.
Well, it depends on what's good or bad.
Yeah, but they're
downhill from easy.
Yeah, downhill meaning like it's like a release. It's like you can just let all those feelings go. You don't have to hold on to them anymore. And so but they're willing to do that once they're willing to see it. I think that's what the interesting part I noticed.
Okay, anyone else? Final comments, thoughts?
Yeah, like I think at the end of the day, like when you're looking at yourself and you're observing your own behavior, just ask yourself, like, am I repeating patterns? You know, zoom out and actually look, because you're probably not doing that right now because it's scary to do that, to admit something this big about yourself. I think the other part of that is you've probably never had a real solution for this kind of thing. And so, of course, you're not looking at yourself in that way, because to look at yourself and then find something wrong and not be able to fix it is quite demoralizing, right? And so just give yourself the chance, the opportunity to actually make your life a little bit easier by zooming out, observe, see if you're repeating any cycles. That in itself is, a pretty good exercise, and it's not something everyone does. But just know you have an army, right, of people who are here to help you with that kind of thing. And so don't be afraid to look. Yeah.
Maybe we'll make that the show name. I don't
Down
know.
to the IGA, and that doesn't stand for International Grocers Association.
Yeah. Anything final from you, Brent?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll just go off of what Gary said. Self-awareness is like never talked about. I mean, watch and notice, how you move, what you think about. Is it something positive? Is it something negative? And then, right before you go to bed, journal it down. How did you react to stuff? Was it positive, negative? Could you have handled something better? And maybe there is an anxiety or an anger, depression, something like that popping up. And then you ask yourself, well, why is this happening? And then you could always reach out to somebody or tackle it on your own. So just be self-aware with how your day is going and what you can do to improve that,
All right. Well said, Brent. So my final thoughts are motivation. You need it. If you have discipline but no motivation, why are you even doing it? Discipline, you need it. You need those daily habits that are going to get you where you need to go. But for many people with bad subconscious programs, they have internal conflict. There are subconscious programs holding them back, where their subconscious, because of how they interpret things as a child, became subconscious programs. Their subconscious thinks it's trying to keep them safe or keep them from feeling bad from failing, but it's really just holding them back. If you got this bad stuff in you, then it can be twice as hard, 3 times as hard, 5 times as hard, or even impossible to do the work to get to where you want to be, because of all this internal struggle. And then no amount of motivation or discipline is gonna help you, or at least it's gonna be way harder. So we get that out. So now you have the power, you get the motivation, you get the discipline, you get the power. Now you're really kicking ass. So you got to have these good internal subconscious beliefs as well. That's our show for today. I thank everyone for coming on, making their contribution. Surprise guest, Carrie. Thanks, Carrie, for sharing your story. Guys, this is the real deal. There's a reason that I started doing this 4 years ago. I have like 6 clients and plus Tim, now hypnotherapists, certified hypnotherapists, either part-time or full-time. There's a reason for that. It's because this is powerful stuff. This is a big key to unlocking your potential and just being happy, successful, happy. I'm not saying it's gonna, we do one session and all of a sudden you're just perfectly cured and everything, but it's a super powerful tool. Combine it with other methodologies as needed, and it's very, very helpful. So that's our show for today. Thanks for joining us. And just remember, guys, everyone, you have more power than you know. Thank you.